Good evening, everybody. Glad you all are here. I would like to call to order the regular meeting of the City of Aransas Pass City Council. It is June 19th, 2023, and the time is 5:30. At this time, would you all rise for the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance?
Dear Father, thank you, my Father, for your love, for your mercy, my Father, and for loving us unconditionally, Lord. We thank you for all that you have provided for us, and we pray, my Father, that you be with us as a city council as we conduct the meeting, and that we make the right decisions for our residents, my Father. I also pray, my Father, for all those that are working out in this heat, that you keep them safe, my Father. I pray for our public works and our police department and our fire department that are out there in this weather, my Father, that you protect them. This we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, that moves us into
Is it working?
Did you turn it on?
Are we on now?
yes.
Okay. So, good evening. This is the final works of that feasibility study that we started quite a while back now, a couple months back. And I have the architect, or the company that's been helping us, Martinez Architects, here with us, and I'm going to let him do the presentation for you.
Okay.
Okay, so just for the record, so my name is Ricardo Martinez, principal at Martinez Architects. Justin Myers is my business partner, so we can both we'll both be here and presenting from time to time. But again, I wanted to come down here. First of all, to say thank you all for allowing us to do this. This is a great experience. You all do have some constraints that I'll kind of go through. Very unique. Each site is unique, and so allowed us to kind of think outside the box, if you will. And so we always enjoy doing that. So if you go to the next slide. So here goes just basically a table of contents. Hopefully you all got the entire presentation. We're able to take a look at it before this evening. For the next one, again, this is just kind of the methodology of how we approach this. Again, we've met with the department. We kind of take a look at what their needs are. We actually went out there, did a site assessment to see what the constraints are, and then see kind of exactly where they need to be moving as a department when it comes down to standards and regulations and building codes, et cetera. So there are some constraints that we're going to kind of mandate or really stress that the department and the city needs to take on. For instance, building codes, gender neutrality, accessibility standards, things like that, in order to get into compliance. And then on top of that, you have NFPA, in which case that kind of governs their governing body as far as fire protection. And then just some exclusions from where we're standing at this point. Again, we were just hired for a feasibility, and so there's still quite a bit we need to kind of dive into in order to fully come to the board to present to you all the full case, if you will. And so if you go to the next one, again, this is just kind of an assessment Just kind of recapping some of those items. Again, identifying exactly what they have on hand, how they operate as a department. Again, we do want to look to see kind of where they're going. What do they see? How do they see the department and station operating in the next 5, 10, 15 years? Because again, as we build them a building, we don't want to look at, say, let's go 10 years down the road, because that'll be a disservice for the community and for you all, the city, because it is quite a bit of money that we're going to be expending here. Life safety, like I said, we talked about that. Again, we're looking at making sure that the firemen are protected during extreme events. Again, they are the front line when it comes to it. Windstorm, obviously here on the coast, that is of the utmost importance. That way they can go ahead and get to work protecting the people of the community. And then accessibility, parity, that's what I talked about earlier. And then looking at, again, just as far as the inequality or inadequate facilities that they currently have. And so again, we want to address that and make sure that they have a facility that'll meet their needs for now and the future. So these are just some pictures. Again, I know you all probably are well aware of their facilities. If you go to the next one, again, it's just kind of documenting some of those items, and we can go through any of those if you all wish to. But again, the short end of it is, they're a growing department. They've probably been growing for some time now. They're using the bays the best of their ability, but they're also storing stuff in the bays, which is not exactly correct. As we look at things such as carcinogens and cancer initiatives, again, the health and protection of them working out there and responding is just important as them protecting the community as well. So, again, their living conditions. Again, we want to make sure we come out there, and when we leave their facility, whether it be however it ends up being developed or designed, it'll meet their needs for the long term. And again, just some extra shots. Again, they have I guess some storage buildings. The 520 is another storage building. Again, so they are spread out a little bit across the city. So we want to get them all under one roof. Again, get all their tools and necessities under one place to where they can respond. So here goes the site. The proposed future site. It is a rather odd linear site for a fire station. It's roughly 140 linear feet crosswise, if you will. So the frontage, which makes it pretty tight. If we orient a facility in the shorter dimension where they would have to back in, that'd be one way we can approach this. But again, to do a full drive-through bay, 140 linear feet of frontage is very difficult. A bay is typically about 18 feet from center line to center line. In order to get the site and the building to fit on there, we actually reduced it down to about 16 foot center to center, if you will. So we did have to squish the building a little bit in order to get on the site. Again, it is doable, but again, there are some major constraints. The site is much more conducive to their operations and their responses from their existing facility, as I'm sure you all are aware of. It's a very interesting loop, if you will. I'm not sure who designed that, but coming onto a loop like that with multiple entrances and exits and blind spots is extremely dangerous. I'm sure they can probably attest to that, and hopefully there hasn't been any issues in the past. But going forward, as y'all continue to grow, again, it's not ideal to be in that type of scenario. If you go to the next one, so again, this is just a current survey. Currently, the lot is made up of a multitude of individual lots, along with an alleyway on one side of it, which is predominantly used for easements for utilities. I'm not sure, again, as we kind of develop it and go into it, whether or not we can obtain or acquire that utility easement, even if it's just for pavement. But that would be something we want to investigate a little more. And then platting, again, depending on how the city goes about that, that's another thing that we got to take into consideration. And in the time frame it takes to plat a property, or in this case, multiple parcels. So the other part of that is, again, if you look along, I think it's North 7th, there is a rather large right-of-way easement there. And so, kind of thinking outside the box, when we start talking about pavement and parking, is could we use, off-street parking, if you will, since we have such a great, large buffer there. because we are going to be constrained with on-site parking. So just things to take into mind and consideration. If you go to the next one, so this is kind of, again, we did multiple options, and so this just happens to be option 2B. And so again, just working with the chief and his staff, again, kind of identifying, okay, he did want to drive through Bay. How do we address that, and how do we overcome the constraints? And so again, we are running it north and south, if you will, on that plan, north and south. And again, we are squeezing the bays down a little bit, and then flanked by ancillary spaces for the bay, and then your living and working quarters on the main side on North 7th Street, if you will. And again, we are trying to take into consideration the off-site parking, again, if that would be considered. And then we will have minimal parking for public out at the front, along with ADA accessibility into the facility. And then towards the back, we would have a secured parking lot for the staff, and then the back entrance for them as well. Okay, and this is just kind of a blow up there. We looked at multiple paths of ingress and egress. Again, along West Lot Avenue, we'd anticipate that being ingress, them coming into the facility, as well as personal staff coming in to park their personal vehicles, then to come onto shift. And then as an exit, means of exit, they would come out the front end, if you will, and then possibly go straight down where it says alternate exit drive. That way they're not coming in the same path as people visiting the site. That would acquire two drives along North 7th, and so we'd make sure that that's feasible for you all, as well as the proximity from the driveway to West Wheeler. Again, there are some constraints or requirements when you start looking at intersection, so we have to look at that to make sure that will allow for that. So go to next one, start looking at the floor plan. So again, as we look at this, your apparatus, everything's going to be associated with the apparatus bay, because again, that's where their main response is coming from. So that's how we look at a facility when we start designing it, is how fast can we get them outside the bay and onto a scene, if you will. And so from the bay, you have flanked by the ancillary spaces. That is the gear wash, gear grid, their gear grid areas, and those type of components. And then on the other side, where you see level 1, level 2, that's where you'll have your day room, your dorms, and your workspaces. And so again, we're looking at the approach into the bay, flanked by 2 points of entry into the bay. Well, we do have airlocks there to, again, we're trying to minimize any kind of carcinogens entering into the facility. And so a direct access from the day room, if you will, because again, if they're sitting on a recliner, get a call, they want to be able to get out as fast as they can to get on a vehicle and get out. If it's an evening call, we have an access point right up by the dorms, and so again, straight from the dorm, straight to the bay, and then out onto the scene, if you will. And so, again, that was the approach on this. Up top there, we do have some of the administrative functions. Again, typically from an administrative point of view, although they may make a call, they're not responding in the same nature as the on-staff personnel, if you will. And so, timing isn't as critical, if you will. And so they would be stored upstairs in a working environment. We would have a stair, we would have an elevator in order to meet access or accessibility. So a couple of exterior renovations. Again, we kind of get excited about when we start designing, right? And we always design in 3D, and that's the way we view a design. And so, everything's computerized, and so again, we try to get with the department. Of course, they get excited when we start putting some pretty pictures up there. So again, this is kind of how this approach was. And so, again, nothing's final. Again, there's still a lot of things to be worked out. But again, our goal was to, provide a facility that has, low maintenance items as far as the fenestration, if you will, hardy materials. That way they can deal with the coastal climate, and then something to fun look at, right? Something beautiful for your city. And so you'll go through a couple of these. This is kind of along North 7th, if you will, and then that's that parking spaces all along North 7th, and then going towards the back of the property, the fenced area. So that was that option 2B. So then 3C, again, just happens to be what it is. But what we did is we took a look at what if we were to go ahead and take the entire bay? Because if you looked at the last one, it was, the bay was a center a piece, and then it had flanked with a two-story option on one side with living and administrative functions. This one is the entire living and working is on top of the bay. So we just sandwiched it on top of each other, the plates. And so if you go to the next one, site plan is very similar. Again, we do have, again, the main characteristics of it is the bay coming in and out from West Lock going down towards the West Wheeler, towards south. And then again, the parking arrangement very similar. We were able to acquire some additional parking. But like I said, the sites were very similar in nature. The next one. So this is really where the differences came in. Again, we took the plate and put it right over the bay and made it a complete two-story facility. And so everything's up on top of there. Again, you start looking at responses. That's where we kind of start to look at it and say, well, from a facilities department or from the facilities is, are they okay with coming up and down the stairs? Again, it's just a different approach to it. It will take longer. We do have a pole in this scenario, so where they would come down the slide or slide down the pole, in the essence of trying to capture some time. And so, other than that, like I said, that's kind of it in a nutshell. This is a little bit smaller, square footage wise. So the other one was right at 16,000 square feet. I think it was 15.9, and this one's 15.4, so roughly 15.5. So a little bit of a difference there. Again, we're staying with the same characteristics, just a different massing, if you will, of the facility. And so we can take a look around this one. Again, larger overhangs, again, hardy materials. So after going through all that, then Chief asked us, okay, cost per square foot, kind of what we're looking at. And so, again, these are just estimated costs. These are, based on historical data. And I may back up for 1 second. So as a firm, our main goal is to stay around public facilities or public safety. So that's all we do across the state of Texas. We normally work on a number of facilities at any given time. And so we've bid out, several facilities here in the past couple months. And so this is kind of where we're seeing numbers right now. Previously, past couple of years, we've been seeing escalation costs coming in around 1 to 1.5% per month. And so that's slowed down a bit. So escalation, we anticipate still going up, but slowing down to about 4 to 5% for the year. So it's a good thing we're slowing down, but again, the costs are still rising. And so right now we just took it based off of current market conditions at about $450 a square foot. So it puts it at $7.2 million. And again, we have some contingencies currently wrapped in there, and so you're at $8.28 million. Put in there soft costs, and you're about $9.8 million. That's starting construction or starting this year, and then bidding out probably towards the first of next year. As you continue to wait, then escalation starts catching up, and it starts eating into about $400,000 to $500,000 per year of escalation costs. So that's kind of where we're at. I know I kind of ran through this pretty quick. I just wanted to kind of put it before you all, and then to really take questions, have an open dialogue if you like.
Any questions?
As far as the crew, how many does that sleep in there? As far as the bunks?
So there will be room enough for 6 people in that station.
Okay.
Now, when we talk about sleeping people, that's kind of important, right? Because we found out during the hurricane that it's not always the day crew that's sleeping there. So if we can go to the 2B, that one. If you see in here, in the top room, or on the, I guess it's on that side for you guys, but the second story where it says training room, that's something that we've been already lacking, of a place to sit and have trainings or have meetings, or even to have other departments that need to come in and have a training. That was I wanted that designed in a way that if we needed to house the entire department, we could pull up those tables and chairs, and those guys could stay inside and have cots, a place to sleep. And one of the reasons, that we saw that the guys were sleeping in the bay during the hurricane, or, just had sheets up or whatever, just, several guys were sleeping on air mattresses together, stuff like that. This would actually give us a room that we can house more people. One of the things that I wanted to make sure of, that the 3 offices, that would be the admin assistant, the assistant chief, and the fire chief's office would all have a fold-down bed, so that we also could stay in those rooms during large emergencies. This design is the one that I like the most. One of the things I liked about was that storage and mezzanine area. That mezzanine opens up to the base and allows the firefighters to actually have a second story, so they can practice ladders inside, or they can do rope rescues inside, or they can practice getting people down from tall places inside. I mean, this to me was the best one, the best design out of the ones I saw. I think it's important that we remember, and I put in my presentation the other day, that the space that we're housing firefighters now, when they're in their bunk room, is smaller than the same spot that we would put prisoners in. Prisoners have more room in their bedroom than my guys have for their bedroom. And I think that's important to remember that. This gives everybody, it's more of a dorm style. You'll have 3 guys sharing a dorm. So when A shift comes on, those 6 guys can go in there. They all have their own room. They have a desk they can sit down to do their studies, and they all have a locker in there. And then when A shift goes home and B shift comes in, they take over. They got their locker, same thing, over and over again. And that provides us a lot more room. Now, with what I've been asking for this year, with only 5 guys, we'd have a spare bedroom for a little while, which is great for if one of our reserve guys wanted to stay overnight or whatever, and sometimes they do. The other thing this cuts down on, funny enough, is guys snoring. We end up getting some guys that end up sleeping in the recliners right now because they get kicked out of the bunk room. So this is another thing that just we're bringing our fire station into this century, right? And so, I think our building is right at 30 years old, I believe, 30. One thing that being in a directorship or a leadership role is we're planning for the future, where we're going to be at in the future. And, you got to look at 10, 15, 25, 50 years down the road. Where are we going to be at? There's no way that we can stay in the station that we're in for another 20 years. If we were to build this station and decide, oh wow, we need to add 5 more guys, because it's only built for 6 guys. We need to add 5 more guys. We need to be looking at a substation. That's exactly what Portland's doing. They have enough in that one station. Okay, it's time to put a substation in somewhere else. So I think this will carry us a long way before we need to start looking for a substation. One thing that he brought up that I think is super important, I touched on it the other day, how more likely firefighters are to get, it's like 67% more likely to get cancer than the normal person walking around. One thing that this station does with putting the airlocks in, doesn't allow the bad stuff from outside to get inside the building. On the far side, we do all of our nasty equipment, all of our bunker gear, everything's on the complete opposite side of the building. Even our lawnmower is going to be on the other side of the building to keep all that as far away from where the guys live, sleep, eat, shower, all that. It's just a really great design. I think it'd be beautiful for the community. I think the beach theme that was chosen and the colors that were chosen were awesome. I think this is something that we really need to consider, and, you know, we're leaving it with you guys to make that decision.
Has anybody toured our current facility?
Oh, yeah, we've all been through there.
Oh, you have, okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a definite need.
It's crowded.
Like I
just-
said, when you got 3 guys in the kitchen, that little kitchen that we have, and they're all in there trying to cook, and they have to turn around like this back and forth. I brought them all with me. You can look and see how big they are. The boys they like to eat, number one,
I wanna know what they eat, I mean, they're,
lots of protein. Yeah, and I mean, it's entertaining at nighttime to see at least 3 of them in there together trying to cook something to dinner. And again, if you look at the size of the kitchen that's on this one, it gives them a lot more room to move around. The pantries give them, you know, you could leave $100 bill on the table and no one would ever touch it, but if you bring ketchup in and put it by itself, someone's gonna take your ketchup. So it's important to have those pantries, the watch office for a place for people to sit down. This actually gives the captain his own office so that he can sit down and do his reports, or study or whatever he needs to do as well. There's a lot of stuff that was built into this with some, on top of that, storage and future expansion, which storage, as everybody knows, we don't have a lot of in this building especially. And a pretty nice exercise room, you know, the guys work out.
It's awesome. We just need to find funding.
That y'all's doing.
Yeah. Sandra, where is she? She didn't come to this meeting on purpose.
Almost look at doing a bond election for something
Yeah,
like this.
exactly. Yeah. Right.
Is that the only site as far as that y'all looked at for building? Or is there any other, like looking at this side, moving some of the departments over there, like the police department? I'm just kind of wondering if that was the only one that y'all concentrated on.
That
particular
property?
piece of property, yeah.
One of the reasons that we specifically looked at that property was it's property that the city already owns. The other reason is being that truthfully where the fire station sits is pretty centrally located to wherever we need to go now. It's in the main heart of all the areas. If we move the station too far out or too far away from one thing, we can change the ISO rating for people within town because we've moved too far away from them. I like our central location, and that's where you start looking at substations where, okay, where's the growth going? You know, it may be the bypass out by Allen Samuels. That'd be a great place for a substation. But I don't think we're there yet. We're not quite there for a substation yet. And that's why we were trying to stay centrally located where we're at now. One of the reasons I like that spot, and one of the reasons I wanted the orientation of the station the way it is the guys have a hard enough time now dumping out onto that, what he was talking about, the mix master we have there. Every day horns are blowing, you know, tires are screeching, and when we come out there, that just confuses everybody even further. They don't know if they're supposed to yield, stop, keep going. They didn't see the truck as he's coming up to the drive. This one actually gives us a little bit of ramp-up time where we're coming up to a normal intersection, and we can still make all those turns and go to the directions that we need to go. We've all put a lot of thought into what's, and I even included the firefighters. Hey, what would you guys want? What would you guys like to see? It's been, to this point, we've been well thought out in really seeing on what we wanted, what would work, what would look good, and that's how we got to this point. We knew of some other areas. I actually looked at where the 520 building was sitting at. That spot's too small. What we call the 40-acre tract, the one that we mow on the other side of City Hall, it's too small. We looked at some different properties, and the one that we chose was the largest property that was centrally located where we're at.
Any other questions?
Who owns the property across the street? Is that the school?
Yeah.
It's the school, right?
Yeah.
Okay, can we take?
The school
Yeah.
donated to us.
I just-
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
You know, that's, that, They don't make any more of it, you know, land.
Mhm.
They don't make any more, so what's out there is what's available.
Sure. I understand that.
And the other thing, it kept us within walking distance of getting back to see Big Chief over there, so.
Alrighty, thank y'all very
Thank
much.
y'all.
Mhm. All right. We will move to the consent agenda, all of the, no items, okay. I guess we move down to development services, all right. Consider an act on approving an agreement with K-Freeze Plus Associates for Meets and Bounds for a drainage improvement project for an amount not to exceed $14,300.
So I know we had a developer trying to come in here a few months ago, and as they were proposing their idea, we had some concerned citizens about some drainage. I started looking into it. I met with some of the property owners around the area, and we found there was a ditch that literally leads nowhere. So back in the day, I guess the county was supposed to install a drainage system that was never installed. So now it's affecting our citizens. So this property is not a city property, it's actually in county property. But what I'm proposing, we can go down one more slide. I don't- the map, there you go. That's the one. Okay, so that red line, we actually spoke to the property owner, which is Mr. Jackson on the bookkeeping company. He told me he was willing to sell that piece of property, just that strip. So it's not the whole property, it's just whatever area we need to fit a drainage system. So that red area would be the property would buy. So kind of picture, assuming maybe like a 20-foot wide right away, all basically in that angle, that where the red line was at. So that being said, that is not the only drainage problem. There would be more problems, but the thing is that this is just to get that area approved, to get K-Freeze to draw off the paperwork, the meets and bounds, so we can actually propose to the owner, you know, what we need to purchase, how much of his land we have to purchase, buy it at fair market price, and be able to install a drainage system in there. So right now, it's just to approve the contract to get an engineer to draw up those documents.
So my question goes back to the county.
And remember when we did McCampbell Ditch Project, when we bought the mulching machine and we cleaned it out? Well, we got reimbursed from the county, so anything we spend here, we're gonna ask the county for reimbursement and we will get our money back. But I'd rather do it that way, so that way it could be under my control versus putting it on the county, let the county do the meets and bounds, let the county do the drainage. I'd rather me be in control of it to make sure that I can control the schedule, push the issue and get it done, and then get reimbursed at the end.
So have you talked to Gillespie about this?
No,
No.
because we already have an agreement with the county that we get reimbursed on any expenses we
Oh.
end
Okay.
up spending for that. And I already spoke to Sandra about it. Sandra's like, yeah, that would 100% qualify.
Okay.
But she doesn't want to piecemeal it. She doesn't want to go every little invoice. She wants to get the whole project done and basically send one big invoice to the county to get reimbursed.
How long will this, if we approve it, how long will this study take?
Well, it's documents.
The document?
Yeah, I'm assuming 30 days. It shouldn't take too long because everybody already knows what the issue is. We just need to get the official documents to give to the owner.
Okay, any questions? Anybody in the audience? Any questions about this? All right.
Thank you.
Need a motion?
I move on approving an agreement with K-Freeze and Associates for meets and bounds for a drainage improvement project for an amount not to exceed $14,300.
Second.
All approved?
Aye.
Any not? Any not approved? All righty, good deal. Now we will move to consider an act on approving a contract between the City of Aransas Pass and, is it Asakura? Asakura Robinson to update the City of Aransas Pass comprehensive plan in an amount not to exceed $118,745.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem. This is the process we go through for bids for the comprehensive plan update. we have been able to go through the bids. We received about 9 applicants, and selection process went on. And Asakura Robertson came on top, and the company has been selected for this comprehensive plan update. Interestingly, their project manager, who is Andrew, he worked on our RVO, recreational vehicle overlay. So we've worked with him previously, and he knows how and what really the city needs. So I'm very confident that we're going to get a very good product from the comprehensive plan. He has come in from Austin office, and if you have any questions, he will be ready to answer them. Also, they have teamed up with K-Freeze Engineering Associates, and they're going to be an advisory body. And already the city works with K-Freeze Engineering, so it's a good combination right there. And we hope that they are going to do a very good job. So what's before you today is to consider and act on the request before you. And I recommend approval of this contract. Thank you.
Have we already paid for this?
Have we already paid for it?
No.
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 Funds been appropriated for this already?
So the city budget, what we budgeted for last year, which is this year, will end in September. We have agreed with the consultant that we will pay that portion, and then the rest of it will go into next year's budget, because this project is going to overlap into somewhere March. That is where the project will probably end. So that's how we're going to finance it.
So part of it has already been budgeted?
Yes,
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
okay.
Excellent.
correct.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay. All right. What is the, any questions? Okay.
I make a motion that we approve the contract between the city of Aransas Pass and Asakura Robinson to update the city of Aransas Pass comprehensive plan in an amount not to exceed $118,745.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Oh, I think Joe.
Joking.
Okey dokey. I think that moves us to public safety. Consider an act on approving the police chief to go with, is it just PMAM? For the police department policy management solution for a cost of $2,600 a year and a 3-year minimum to start.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Normally, for our policy portal that we use, we spend about $4,800 a year. This is going to take us to that $2,600 a year. And what this is going to help us in doing, there are several agencies that are state accredited agencies right now. It's going to allow us to more seamlessly seek state accreditation based on the Texas Police Chiefs Association model for accreditation. One of the things that the Trump administration was really pushing for during his time was to create some type of mandate to where police agencies all receive some form of accreditation. I think there's 3 accreditation platforms out there. The TPCA, Police Chiefs of Texas, has one of them. That is the platform we are currently working towards. So what this will allow is us to migrate our current policies into this system, this portal for management. We will then move away from that policy structure, and we will adopt the Texas Police Chiefs Association and adapt them to our current situation here in Aransas Pass, and then continue pursuing state accreditation. Now, I wanted to get this on the agenda right now so that we could go ahead and pull this trigger before we renew with our current policy vendor, which goes up for renewal in July. But I'm not totally done vetting this company. I'm waiting for some outstanding referrals to come back with feedback. but because today was a national holiday, many of them, I guess, are just not available, so I haven't heard from any of them yet. But that's the last thing that I have to do. I was hoping to have that done before this meeting. So if all things works good and there's no issues and you guys approve tonight, we'll pull this trigger and move forward. This funding source for this will be from budgeted funds in the amount of the 4,800, and then the remaining funds, if you approve this evening, for the first 3 years will come from state or federal asset forfeitures.
I move to approve the police chief to go with PMAM for the police department policy management solution for a cost of $2,600 a year and a 3-year minimum to start.
Second.
All approve?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
We move to consider and act on renewal of the agreement with DRC Emergency Services LLC for debris removal and disposal services for a 1-year term beginning May 3rd, 2023 through May 2nd, 2024.
All right, good evening, council. Last year, y'all approved a contract with DRC Emergency Services, and this is our debris removal and basically where we get additional assets during a state of emergency. That contract came with the ability to renew at the discretion of the city for a period of the next 3 years. So we're seeking to renew the current contract that we have with DRC. There is no cost associated with it unless there's an activation. There's no cost for the retainer.
Okay.
Well, I make a motion that we renew the agreement with DRC Emergency Services LLC for debris removal and disposal services for a 1-year term beginning May 3rd, 2023 through May 2nd, 2024.
Second.
All approve?
Aye.
Thank you.
Any opposed? Okay, that takes us to city councilor staff announcements. We will have a workshop meeting, June 27th. Is that next Monday? Next Tuesday. We will be discussing the Texas A&M University report on Con Brown Harbor, data collection, residential homes at city entrances, and presentation by Third Coast Rentals. Citizen comments. Citizens' comments are intended for matters that are not scheduled on the agenda. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes and state your name and address for the record. Be advised that the Texas Open Meetings Act prohibits the City Council from responding and discussing your comments. The law authorizes the following: make a statement of factual information, recite existing policy, advise that this subject may be placed on the agenda for a subsequent meeting. Anybody?
Hey, Mayor Pro Tem, I'm sorry, there was a typo on that workshop. June 27th is a very important birthday eve. That day and the 28th are city holidays. It's my birthday next week.
Okay, well, I'll be sure and sing happy birthday for you. Any citizen comments? Nobody wants to talk to us today? Thank goodness.
Oh,
Oh,
oh, here we go.
So, once I was here, because I thought there was gonna be discussion about zoning and the entrances to the town.
oh,
So,
yeah, that's on the workshop agenda for next
Yeah.
Tuesday.
Yeah,
okay, will that be here?
yes.
Uh-huh,
5:30.
5:30. Okay, well, then there is no executive session, so
Make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
Oh. Will you make it? Yeah, definitely.
Aye.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Y'all just want to hang out? All righty, thank you all for being here.